Vice Chair Lucas,
Present.
Trustee Linares,
Present.
Trustee Markle,
Present.
and Trustee Spanzo.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, public comment. The public is invited at this time to provide comment on any topic that relates to a matter over which this public body has supervision, control, or jurisdiction. No action may be taken on a matter raised during this period for public comment. Okay, I don't see anybody here, so how about moving on? Item number 4, approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes
Do I
from
have
the
a
last
second?
meeting. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Okay, item number 5. For possible action, we're going to discuss and hopefully vote on action regarding direction from the library board, from us, on the process and tools for completing the library director's forthcoming annual performance evaluation. So I just want to say that the last couple of years that we've done it's been a little bit of a cluster. So Joy's going to kind of walk us through how we're going to do it this year, and it's going to be, I believe, with Jeff's help, very streamlined, a much more efficient. And I do want to say that when you do receive all of the information, the survey, her evaluation, and the stuff from Jeff, that you take everything on equal measure. I know it'll be a little difficult if some of you haven't been here for a year, but you've been here long enough to be able to make an educated, evaluation. But I don't want to see, like, if you're looking at the employee evaluation, I don't want that to hold more weight than your own personal evaluation, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Except that's the only thing we have to make an evaluation.
Well, we have our interaction with Joy and the outcome of what things that are going on, the outcome.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I'm going to let Joy explain it, and I'm actually very excited. And again, thank you, Jeff, for doing this for us. I think it's going to go much better, and I think it's fairer on everybody.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Joy Holt, Library Director for the record. Thank you, Jeff, for being here tonight and being willing to walk us through this and help us streamline this. So I'm going to give just a brief little bit of background. I've done a lot of research to figure out how other departments are doing this. We're unique in that we have a governing board. And so my first thought was, well, the other department head in the city organization that has a similar experience or might have a similar experience is the city manager. So I did some historical research on that and with Adam as well, and then took a look at what we had done in the past with my predecessors. So that being said, what I've come up with is a suggested timeline of how we should go about this, and then how the information will be dispersed out in terms of the survey, in terms of my self-appraisal to you all, what information I will get back before we have the evaluation in person, and then have that evaluation and a brief opportunity for you all to discuss the objectives after the survey results have been aggregated and after your individual evaluations have been aggregated, and that we will then, or that evaluation will then be mostly or exclusively to discuss the objectives for my next evaluation period. So for the 2025 or 2026, 2027 evaluation period, if that makes sense. So that being said, what I'm suggesting is that you are obligated to perform an evaluation of me every year before July 1. Human Resources asks that we get it done before then. We're going to stick with our, yearly coming in hot. So, but we'll get this done at the very beginning in our June meeting. So my suggestion is that we continue with the 360-degree review that is has been sent out for the last few years by Human Resources. And that will then be conducted to gather feedback from all of the library staff using the following steps. So by April 17th, the HR director will disperse the requisite survey to each library staff member, myself included. By May 1st, each library staff member who wishes to participate must submit their response to Human Resources. And there's a way for them to respond back. They submitted it, goes back to Human Resources. By May 8th, the HR director will aggregate all of that feedback from the 360-degree review survey responses and provide those results to each board member and the library director. So I'll be able to see those results as well. What's happened in the past few years is that I've not actually seen the results of the survey until the day of the evaluation. So I haven't had a lot of opportunity to look at that and answer any questions you might have before the evaluation day, because I'm getting it the day of. And I think that you all received it day of last year too, maybe, or the year before. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity as we were going through it in the moment. So to eliminate that, we'll have all of that, and I will also have my self-appraisal to y'all by May 8th. That's my opportunity to talk about all of the things that have been done throughout the course of the year and reference my objectives from the previous year. That's sort of I tell my unclassified staff that's the opportunity for them to toot their own horn and also show me how they met the objectives, and I give the objectives to help create a roadmap for them. I really think that's the purpose of objectives, is to so that everyone knows going forward what their expectations are for the following year. And then on May 8th, the HR director will pre-fill out the unclassified job performance appraisal that was attached here. And I sent that blank form so you all can see what that will look like coming from Jeff. He's going to fill out a condensed list of the job duties. So this is a bit of a change from previous years because my predecessors, both Dr. Colgrove and Director Lloyd, their evaluations on this same form were reduced to between 5 and 7, I think 5 for most years, job duties. When I began, I was the one who sent out the form to y'all, and I listed all of my job duties. So there were like 16 choices. And so one way we could do this, and this is really where some conversation probably will need to be had, is how do we want to condense those? Do we want to condense them? Do we want to use the condensed versions that were used for my predecessors? Because those are very much the same every year. But one thing I think would be best is if Jeff condensed them, if we choose to do that, so that there's no perception of impropriety on my part, like I'm choosing the job descriptions that I know I'm excelling at, So do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I like the condensed version. I think it can be hard to tackle such a large number of items. I'm sure that our HR director is more than capable of doing that, especially since we used to use a smaller version. So that makes sense to me.
Okay.
It sounds like, having been through this 5 or 6 times, I think that's a great plan.
Okay.
And not having been through it at all, I'm willing to go with that. But I just am a little wondering, not being that familiar with all 16 or whatever duties they are, would the effort to condense them try to hit something in each? Maybe there's different categories or something like that. Is it a priority? How do we winnow? How's the winnowing process?
I
Well,
would think, I'm sorry.
I can't answer that specifically, but I can say that what my instincts tell me
Yes,
upon reading what was on my predecessor's evaluations is they pulled out the job duties that best encapsulated the other job duties.
that's what I
So
would
that
be
some of
hoping.
these job duties get very specific,
Right.
but there are
okay.
those that are very general as well. And so the most general ones were the ones that seem to have been pulled out from my perspective. But I don't know how they did that before because it's been so far back.
Sure.
But I'm guessing that's what was done.
I think also, we have to keep in mind that because of the nature of the beast, we're her boss, but we don't work there. It's almost impossible to evaluate her, let's say, in all 16, because we don't see all 16. So I know her predecessors, what they did is they took basically the job duties that we would see, the running, the leadership, the running of the library, the goals of the library, something that concrete that's easier for us to see, if that helps at all.
Okay, so moving on from that, Jeff will then pre-fill out that portion of the form and distribute that, and he'll also fill out the objectives portion, because that was another thing that we'd run into in the past, is that the objectives weren't listed on the form that you all had to fill out, so it was like, what were the objectives from the previous year? And so he will fill out the section of the form, and let me pull that form up so there's a little bit better point of reference. Okay, so there you'll see there are 7 different major job responsibilities. Like I said, we'd only had 5 in the past. So he'll preload that part, and then the objectives, he will also preload that part. Does that make sense? Okay, and so he'll send out that preloaded form to each of you to then complete with your individual responses and scores.
Which is
Or
helpful
ranking.
also because it's hard to all be on the same page when we're all guessing different objectives and different responses.
Yeah,
So,
right. And so then he'll have that sent out to you all, what day did I put here? By May 8th, along with my self-appraisal. And I'll send that to each of you individually so that there's no possibility of a quorum or anything like that. I'll send that out individually to each of you rather than like I do with the agenda where it's a list. And so then on May 22nd, each board member will individually and separately evaluate the library director and complete the pre-filled unclassified performance review form and send their individually completed version of the library director's unclassified employee performance appraisal form to the HR director. So to Jeff.
I'm sorry, I want to get this right because I like deadlines.
Okay,
So by May 8th, we
He's gonna
should
send-
actually see that in our inbox, correct?
right.
By May 22nd, we had better send it by 5 o'clock on May 22nd. Send it back to Jeff, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see
Does
that I
make
tried
sense,
to break.
everybody? So that gives us almost a couple of weeks to fill it out.
Yeah, that was by design, so that
Yeah.
there's 2 weeks gap. So
Yeah.
there's 2 weeks for the survey, 2 weeks for the turnaround. There might be a little bit of shorter turnaround there, but so that everyone has time to look at my appraisal, because that'll remind you of some of the things that we've talked about in these meetings that you may not remember, and it's so you don't have to go back and listen to every every meeting over the last year. And so then what'll happen is on June 5th, the Human Resources Director will aggregate the unclassified employee performance review form that you each submitted to him, and he'll aggregate that into a single version of the form, which will include a calculated average of the performance ratings, meaning this section here that says above expectations, meets expectations. He'll calculate that and send that compiled unclassified employee performance review form to both you guys and me. So you'll see what that final product is, which will take into consideration each person's individual rankings and then whittle that down. It's fairly, I would say, basic mathematical equation, right? You're going to say, okay, 3 out of 5 people said above expectations, so majority above expectations. And I'll get that ahead of time as well. And then at the actual June 11th board meeting, the evaluation will be presented with a brief discussion of the final performance ratings and the objectives for the next evaluation period. And then at that time, after finalization, the board chair and the library director will sign the final form. And I will leave with that and post it as late materials for the meeting. The signed version. Or do we have to do that, Adam? Do I have to load the signed version as late materials if the unsigned version is loaded?
Yeah.
Okay. And then one thing too I forgot to add, Adam, was just a friendly reminder about the release form or and what I forget, notification. Adam will send that to me to let me know that I'm going to be evaluated in so many days. We have plenty of time.
I don't know whether this is timely, but since it's on my mind, I'm just going to ask. So the objectives, we are going to have the objectives that were set last year, and we are using that as our criteria for making our estimations.
Correct.
But I'm kind of here, we are not necessarily keeping those objectives. They may be stale, they may be achieved, they may no longer be. Will there be conversation among us, the board, at the June 11th meeting as to what the objective should be, or is that how that goes? So we should come prepared with thinking about, I think the objective should be such and such. Is that correct?
Well, the thing is that Jeff is going to aggregate each evaluation form that he received back from you.
Right.
The expectation is that you each will list 5 objectives from your perspective. Typically what happens is there's crossover. And so he'll be able to logically go, okay, we think that Joy needs, last year, one of the, I think, ones that everyone had on their evaluation was to provide more training or more opportunity for training based on that employee survey and staff expressing that they wanted that. And so that was something I could go forth with and make efforts to deliver on. But it was something that everyone pretty much had on their evaluation form, so that would have been an easy answer or an easy
That's
one
a
to.
nice clarification, appreciate that.
So usually that happens, but then you can come and discuss, but Jeff's going to send out to you that aggregated version and that final version that's going to show you what the objectives were based on each of y'all's feedback that he was able to glean what the objective would be. Because again, there usually is a common thread between most everyone's objectives.
Right, but you also wrote on here with a brief discussion of the
Mm-hmm.
final performance rating for 25-26 and objectives for the 26-27.
Right.
So I was just a little hazy.
Yeah, so that's
So, yeah,
built.
I
I
would
wasn't
not,
quite sure about what
It's-
that meant.
Well,
I
it's,
think I wouldn't really hesitate to discuss it a little bit.
right. It's to give us the opportunity to say, okay, you were above expectations here, yada, yada. Here's this objective. And that's an opportunity to say, and with that objective, what we would like you to see, I mean, you can get a little bit more specific, but let's also talk about maybe the whys behind that, but also not to get too far into the weeds with the objectives, if that makes sense. Because, and when I say get into the weeds, is everyone kind of, spitballing ideas for objectives. That spitballing process theoretically will have happened already with each of your individual responses that Jeff will then aggregate. Does that make sense to you, Jeff?
I think this is Trustee Markle. I think it's a good idea to have those objectives aggregated because I think that's a starting point for, it's hard in the past, it's hard to just come up with them out of the blue.
Right.
So if there are 5 objectives that are already in the performance evaluation as aggregated, then we can say, oh yeah, that's good, or that's really not clear enough, or that's not enough, we can make those changes. But I think it's great to have this kind of starting point because, yeah, it can get crazy.
And I can say that all the way back to 2018, 18, I think. My predecessor's evaluations went something like this. Thank you, Chair, for consolidating all of this. Does everyone agree? What do you think? Trustee, what do you think? I agree with you, Chair. Trustee, what do you think? I also agree. I think you're doing a great job on this part. Well done. Carry on. Same. And then here you are. And the completed document was already loaded as part of the agenda, and it was 15 minutes tops. Now, I'm not saying that we have to do that, but what I am suggesting is that not take, as long as we've had it to take, because I think it's stressful, and not just stressful for me, but I think everyone. I mean, we are sort of, it's got to be stressful for you guys sitting up there on high, right? And so that's really the purpose of this, is to help streamline that.
And thank you, Joy, for taking all of my thoughts and talking to Jeff and getting this done, because it's stressful. It's just not fair on either side.
Well,
So
and thank
this
you.
is
Many,
great.
many thanks to Jeff for being willing to take on
Yeah.
a good bit of this work for us.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
But that will also hopefully, not that this has ever been a real issue, but it's never a bad thing to sort of create a situation that will negate any sort of perception of bias or anything like that. So if someone would like to make a motion, you can look back on your staff report here, or let me get back to it.
I'll make a
hopefully.
motion.
Okay.
Vice Chair Lucas, I move to approve the annual performance evaluation process proposed by staff as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for being so quick on that.
Okay, before we move forward to my report, does anyone have any questions about the financials? I am about to go into augmentations. So by our next meeting, you should see some reconciliation and numbers squaring up with the grant. I also did just also reach out to GoEd to draw down what's remaining on the grant total, so that you'll see that, like I said, squaring up. Because it's funky right now. It says we've used 151%. Well, that's because we haven't drawn down the amount, the entire amount for the grant. Anything?
This is Trustee Spansel, and I'm assuming the 236% on page 21, the grant operating supplies, is the same, is part of that same thing.
Yeah. Operating supplies, just to give a background on that, everything associated with a grant outside of salary is operating supplies when it applies to grant monies. So it's never going to get too specific. And when we've got multiple grants, you're not going to see it broke out by grant, individual grant. It's just going to all be in this big pile here. And it's up to me to make sure, and finance to make sure that that money's getting, that we're dispersing it correctly for each grant, individual grant. But as it happens right now, all of our other grants through the state, et cetera, are spent. Our monies from the Friends, which is donation and the gift fund, are spent. So what that money that we're dealing with right now is, we'll get trued up with the drawdown from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Any other questions about any of the other stuff? No? Okay. I am going to move on. So, we did fill our senior library assistant position, but in doing that, we opened our collection development librarian position. So that is open and about to post. We were working on getting very specific with our supplemental questions to let people know specifically what we're looking for. However, that doesn't mean that people will answer those questions. A lot of times what we get is NA on all of the questions, which if someone can't answer the question, a supplemental question, then they probably aren't going to be qualified for the position. We also have another senior library assistant position that opened. We had a staff member who was had some things going on. We were aware of it, and ultimately, she doesn't live in town, and ultimately decided to that she needs to be closer to home. So. We also have the library resources and system manager position open and posted. And then our part-time shelver position is open, and we're going to be scheduling interviews for that position and the senior library position this either tomorrow or early next week. The library resources and systems manager, we don't have a lot of great candidates right now. We don't have a lot of applicants at all, actually. So we'll go from there.
I missed something that you said earlier.
Okay.
How does the collection development librarian, how does that go with the senior library assistant? Or did I just misunderstand? I didn't quite
No,
get
the
it.
person that was in that position stepped down to senior library assistant.
Okay. And then what was the thing about the questions with the NA? What questions?
So
is this?
we have the ability to ask what's called supplemental questions with each job that we post.
And so this would be in the application?
Correct.
Okay.
And what happens sometimes we do that to try and communicate to applicants what it is that we're specifically looking for and or what that particular, for example, senior library assistant position is going to be most expected to do. The collection development librarian position kind of speaks for itself, but not all of our positions necessarily do that. But we also want to be sure that we have someone who has a collection development experience. Because what happens is people will think, well, yes, I understand how to develop a collection. I have my own library at home. And that's not what we're looking for. But what happens is sometimes people don't fill out the questions. They just put NA. And if they put NA, then they're not answering the questions that we need to have answered in order for us to consider them as for an interview.
So this is in the screening process?
Correct.
And this is a new part of the screening process?
It is not new. It's something that we do, but I brought it up to explain why the collection development librarian position is not posted yet, because we were being very mindful and deliberate about what we were going to ask.
Okay.
And the person that position just opened or just became available or unfilled on Friday.
Okay.
So last Friday.
So that's when the person moved themselves or to be a senior library assistant from the collection development librarian?
Correct.
Okay. Is that common?
For someone to step down?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
It's because we jinxed it.
Yeah,
It's not,
probably.
of course, but I'm just recalling that in past meetings that we have said, oh, we're so close
Yeah.
to being fully staffed. But as someone who sometimes deals with staffing myself, I understand how it is a constant bus that you're trying to catch up to, which is
Yeah.
all to say, thank you for that explanation. I think I understand. Obviously, we don't get to know all the details, and that is all well and good and fine, but I understand better what is posted, what is not. So
I know, and it's like a game of chess, truly,
Well
or whack-a-mole, really, at this point. But I'm confident we're going to get there. And so, that said, our Capital City Reads program is underway. The Music of Bees is the selection this year. It's fiction, and we've had great response. Let's see, today is the 9th. It started on the 1st, and we have about, I think, 60 books left out of 300. So that's pretty good, 6 days in. So we're kind of gauging it at this point to see if we might need to buy some more. That is fully funded by the Friends. If we have to buy more, we'll use those funds from our general fund book budget, but or another gift fund light item. But people have so far given really good response to it. And it's a nice story. I mean, it takes place in Hood River, Oregon, which if you've ever been there is gorgeous. And it's about a person who's a beekeeper and how disruptions to environment can change an ecosystem in the broadest sense of the word, and the community gathers together. And so it's a metaphor for how bees, the system of bees works together to make a honeycomb. And yeah, so it's really a good book. It's an easy read, I would say. It's nice, not too heavy. And I so far it's been very popular. So come to the library and get a free book and pass it on or bring it back. And they're in the very front of our new, or newish now, circulation desk. So that said, there are 2 off-the-shelf book club discussions that are going to be specifically about the Capital City Reads selection. And then we're doing some, bee-friendly programming to coincide with that. And you can see here in parentheses are the different programs as they relate to the different things going on this month. So National Poetry Month, Capital City Reads, and the National Library Week, which is the 3rd week in April. National Library Week, that is. And we had a spelling bee today with kiddos. And we had 3 attendees and 8 people. And they were super cute pictures. So hopefully I told Haley, our programming outreach coordinator, hopefully winning a medal will encourage them to be fearless competitors throughout life. So anyways, those are what we've got going on here. And we're still cruising along with the 60th anniversary events every month. Like I said, we're still we've got a really cool idea that we're going to launch, but we've got to get it nailed down a little bit more for the actual party that we're going to have on the day of the actual anniversary on June 15th. And then we did have our staff training day this last Monday. Dr. Steinman had a very booked schedule this month, so he and I are still trying to figure out how we can best get him and Anya, his assistant, to come out. Hopefully that's going to happen in about 2 weeks. We won't be able to, close the library again because we have our approved calendar for the year already set. But I think we can make it work that folks will be able to commit a block of time to meeting with him, together, depending on whomever is scheduled on desk or not scheduled on desk. Myself and Sarah and probably our other managers will have more time off desk to be able to be there for that think tank session. And then he will begin drafting the final strategic plan, or first draft of the final strategic plan. So that's where we're at with all of that. And that's the only, that's not true. After I drafted this, our friend came. And so now we're trying to figure out how to hang it because it doesn't hang like the other one does. So we're gonna have to do some creative stuff to get it to hang from the tiles. But it looks really cute. We have 2 of them. One's gonna go on the door that faces the foyer, and then one will go hang from the wall. So it's cute. I would have included a picture here had I had one when I drafted this. So, does anyone have any questions about any of this stuff?
Could we just touch on a little bit the strategic plan? So he comes back at some time that works for everybody in the next couple of weeks. He begins, he and the assistant whose name I've forgotten.
Anya?
You're right. They begin putting together that material to start to do a rough draft. Can you give me a time, or what does it look like then, or where does it go?
Well, he's committed to having a first draft done. He's got a lot of them information from the surveys already. He's already got probably 90% of it done. So this is going to be the last and final push from the staff, and then he'll plug information in. Then he will come here and discuss it with you all. And if changes need to be made, then he'll go forth and make those changes. Or you can, at that time, say, we approve with this change. And then once that's completed, we're done for the next however many years, till 2030.
No, well, we have those intermediary
Right,
touch-ups.
but we are
Right.
done with the first year of the 5-year plan.
Okay.
So we're done we'll have a comprehensive plan. It doesn't change. We don't do a brand new plan every year. We just do.
revisit.
Yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
would he be if we're doing your evaluation in June, I doubt that he would be coming in June. He would come in May, maybe, or he
I
would,
doubt that he's going to be able to come in May. He'll
Okay.
probably have to come in July or somewhere
okay.
thereafter. We can't make it work time-wise otherwise.
And so in the timeline, I'm just reiterating in my head that we are not concerned about it being that late. That'll be fine, that we won't be like running afoul of anything that says we have
I
to
already
have our 5-year
requested a
plan.
waiver with the
Right.
state because we are
Just wanted to
behind.
reiterate that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was also my question as a newbie, right? Having gone through this process the first time now. So we are not expecting it to be May. We're expecting that it would probably be July
That's what
in
I'm
terms
thinking.
of his availability.
Yes, right. Because it's been really hard for us to match up because of a lot of things that have been going on with him having to move his whole office and the things that came with that. And then also just trying to sync up our schedules. So
Okay,
it's,
understood.
we could fast track it more than we have already, but because we had kind of had to because we were behind. But because we have a waiver from the state, we have some time.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I'm kind of thinking as you were asking that or talking about that, is it something that, because it's going to be a large document, if we were to get it with a regular agenda and then come to the meeting the next week, that may not provide us enough time to really analyze it, to be able to give meaningful feedback. It will probably be done way before July because we're just looking at him coming to us, but do we not give feedback till he, quote, presents it? I would like time to digest it.
Yes, you will.
And-
We
but
always do
you
it that
give
way. You get more time than a week beforehand. As soon as it's completed,
Oh, good.
I will send it out to each of you individually so that you can review it. And I expect there will be plenty of time for you to do that before we then come and have the discussion in July or whatever month it ends up falling in. Maybe it will be, we could do it in June after my evaluation. There's no saying that we can't, but except the chair is letting me know no. Yes.
Don't forget, we
you will
also
get-
have elections. It's going to be a longish meeting.
There's
because
gonna
we're
be a-
have elections.
Oh, correct. In July. The elections are in July.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay. I just don't want us to be sitting here for 5 hours.
Agreed. I don't think anyone wants that, right?
Yeah, what are we talking?
Board and vice chair, or chair and vice chair. Every year in July, we elect a new.
Every year I look at you.
Okay.
So yes, you will be given a lot of time. We won't expect you to come and have that, however many pages, 50-page report in front of you for the first time and have a meaningful conversation about it. Mhm.
And it seems to me, this is Trustee Spansel, that yes, we know it's been delayed. Yes, we know the state knows that, and everything is above board in terms of the paperwork there. But if we've come this far and there have been, the survey results as well as the previous strategic planning workshops, in my mind, I would like it to be as good as it can be rather than as quick as it can be.
Right.
And I would imagine, although, we only met the one time in this context, that Dr. Steinem feels the same way as his, signature is underneath this work. So
Correct. Yeah.
good to hear.
And then, of course, we'll, at some point shortly thereafter, we'll pull out so there's the technical report, which is the big report, but then we'll probably also pull out and make a more condensed version of that that's a little bit more accessible and user-friendly for our users. And what we've done in the past is create pamphlets that people can have that condenses all of that down. So it's, 1 to 2 pages or a pamphlet. And that's something we can do. And we could create that ourselves at the library and have it printed, or maybe even print it ourselves. Probably we'll have it printed so it's nice and shiny and glossy. But we can create that ourselves. We can do that graphic designing or infographic. That's really what it is an infographic. But we could then make post on our Facebook along, or on our website, along with the lengthy technical report. Because a lot of people just aren't going to go through all of that data.
Any more questions? Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that, Joy. Okay. So 6B, trustee reports, announcements, requests for information.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's going to be, okay, quiet meeting next time. All righty, so let's move on then to public comments. And once again, the public is invited at this time to provide comments on any topic that relates to a matter over which this body has supervision control jurisdiction. No action may be taken on a matter raised during this period for public comment. And again, I don't see anybody here and we don't have a phone line, so how about we adjourn? Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.